We want students to be good problem solvers, and problem solving takes practice. And sometimes it's more than just what we can do on a worksheet or on a page in our textbooks. And so how can we engage students in problem solving? And maybe even more importantly, how can we engage them in solving problems that are important to them? That is really what we're going to be talking about in this video today. We're going to be talking about this great free curriculum that you can get access to, that you can use with your students. It's got all sorts of fantastic resources. And so we're going to be talking all about that today in this video. So my name's Matt Miller. I'm the author of Ditch That Textbook, and I am joined today by Kat Voss, who has had some experience working with this curriculum a little bit. So Kat, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure, thanks for having me. My name's Kat Voss. I'm entering my 16th year of education, and I have taught everything from first grade all the way up through 8th grade. I used to focus mainly on math and science. In middle school, I was just a science teacher. And the past 3 years, I have been lucky enough to be a special area teacher, and I teach content called I Explore. And that is everything from technology to STEM, design thinking, and the entrepreneurial spirit and process and things like that. And I love it. It's the best job ever because I get to teach cross-curricular, the way that you always dreamed you could teach.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm so jealous of you. That would be fantastic. So, so what we're here to talk about today is this great free curriculum called GPS the Series. This live video is actually sponsored by GPS the Series and Cisco. And so we're going to be talking all about this curriculum that you can get your hands on right now and actually start using with students. So I wanted to tell you just a little bit about it real quick, and then Kat, I'll kick it over to you to, add anything extra or tell me some of the, tell us about some of the features that you like about it too. But really what the whole thing is sort of focused around are these videos. And so you've got these videos, it's an entire two entire series of videos. They're these neat animated ones. They're just, like 5 minutes or so long each, just long enough to keep your students' attention, but still give you plenty of time in the rest of your class. And all of these characters from all over the world get together, and they work through the process of solving a great big problem in a community. And what's neat about it is that the students are able to follow along with that and then start to identify problems in their communities that are important to them and then be able to solve them as well. And then what's great about it also is that it's loaded up with all of these teacher resources. So you've got like the teacher's guide that has everything. You have, teaching companion pages that you can keep right next to you that have questions and different activities you can do. You have scripts for all the videos, you have storyboards, and then there are a whole bunch of really cool STEM activities and additional videos. And oh my goodness, I was just sort of blown away at how much stuff was actually there. And if you want to go check it out, the place to find it is right there at gpstheseries.com. So, Kat, for you, what was especially helpful for you when it comes to the teaching resources?
The fact that it was all there, that was amazing for me. Because I teach kindergarten through 8th grade, and my school's signature program is Entrepreneurship, I was really struggling with finding something that was appropriate for like my 4th and 5th graders, because my littles, we have a very specific thing we talk about, and my bigs, I have something that I can work with. But that 4th and 5th, 6th grade area was kind of like, what do I do with them? And so just through an internet search, I found it by accident, 100% by accident. And I went in there and I was like, this is great. It's got a short snippet of a video that I can show. It's got all these guiding questions already built in. It's got all these activities that I can pick and choose from. Like if I choose not to do that activity, it's okay, because there's all this other stuff that I can use to make it meaningful and make it useful. So it was that whole idea that it's all there and ready is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and by the way, I wanted to do a couple of quick shout outs to some of the folks that are joining us live. If you are joining us live, then we are super excited to see you. And if you have any questions or any follow-ups or any ways that you could see this being used, please throw that into the comments and we will shout you out. So here's Berta from El Centro, California. Good to see you. Here's Dalton from Mount Airy, North Carolina. We've got Danielle from New Jersey, and then we've got Autumn from Bowring in Oklahoma. And so a couple of familiar faces to me joining the broadcast. So super excited that you guys are here. And so yeah, definitely throw in any sort of questions or comments that you have for us. But so Kat, when you found the GPS the series curriculum, tell me a little bit about, like why. Oh, no, instead of that, tell me a little bit about sort of how it got deployed out, like how it got used in your classroom.
Right. So what I really liked about it is that there's 2 seasons. And so I decided that I was going to use season 1 with 1 grade level, and then the next year they would do season 2 so that I would be able to grow with the kids. Right. And so what I did is I started off with introducing the characters. And so there's those wonderful character profiles, and that first video really gets into who they are. And what was really awesome is after we watched that first video, I asked the kids, who do you identify with? Which of these kids would you be? Are you the tech person? Are you the peacemaker? Are you the leader? And I had the kids kind of decide who they would be so that later on when it came time to work together, I could make their own GPS groups. So I took all of my leaders and I put them each in one group, and I took all of my tech persons and I split them up. So they worked with new people, but they all felt they could bring something to that group work. Yeah. So, and then we did 1 video a day, and then we had the discussion, and then we would do the activity. And the following day or so, we would do another video. And we just used those discussion questions that were already built in and had these great conversations. And it was really cool because it grew with the kids. They would ask, are we doing GPS this year? When are we doing GPS?
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you've got your students excited about A, solving problems, B, getting back into a curriculum that you already have, and C, it's something that's free that you have multiple series of. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing to be able to access.
Yeah. And free as a teacher, free's got a nice gold star on it. So the fact that it's all there.
Yeah, that's right.
Subscribe to it. No, nobody had to log into anything for it. It's just, it's there. And the kids could access it too. So I could put a link in their online learning platform, and they could go watch it again on their own and share with their families what they were doing.
Yeah.
So that was cool too.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier that I think is so cool is that, within the GPS, the series, you can see on the screen right now is you have all of these different characters. They're set from, all different countries, and each of them has a skill set, kind of like strengths that the others don't have. And so the group is stronger because of the diverse makeup of it. And that's one of the things that I think is super cool about this is some of the curriculum materials within GPS, the series, when you start to get into those teacher resources, it has a variety of prompts that encourage the kids to think about what their part is on the team. So it's almost like it's telling us that we don't have to be everything to everyone. We don't have to be the entire team ourselves, and that we need to rely on others. And I think it's also sort of interesting whenever kids start to do that digging down into themselves to figure out who am I, what are my skills? If I was a character in GPS the series, who would I be? And what was that? I know you touched on this just a little bit, and I wanted to follow up. What was it like for the kids to sort of have that like self-actualization of who they would be in the group?
It was really, I think, engaging for them because they didn't have to like fill out a reflection form. They didn't have to answer a survey. They watched this, and we had this really authentic, conversation about, being in a group and having different roles. And when, we put up the characters and we really discussed what they brought to the group, I just asked them, real quick, who do you most identify with? Everybody in this room can identify with one of those characters, and everybody could. And they talked about why they were this character and not that character. And if they were this character, they'd struggle. But if they were that character, they would totally be able to do that because that's who they are. So it was really this authentic conversation. And it made them realize that it's okay if they don't know technology. It's okay if they're not the peacekeeper and they struggle with that kind of thing. But as long as they know they can bring something, it's okay. That's everybody can bring something. And it was really cool that when it came time to split them into their groups, and they didn't know I was doing this when I told them to pick one of the characters, because you can't let all your secrets out.
No.
They didn't complain when I split them. They understood who they were in that new group. And it was really kind of cool that they were totally ready to work with this group, because they knew that I'm the tech person, that's going to be my role. I'm the leader, that's my role. I'm the leader, that's my role. And it was really cool to see them take it on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. No, I totally love that. Okay. So for somebody who is brand new to all of this, which by the way, I'll probably keep dropping this link down here on a pretty regular basis. You can get all of these great curriculum resources for free by going to gpstheseries.com. But for someone who isn't familiar with it and who hasn't gone through, one of this series of videos and hasn't seen sort of the step-by-step and all of that, what can you tell them to kind of help them wrap their brain around what it would look like in a regular classroom? Like, can you kind of tell us, like start to finish, kind of give us a summary of what the whole thing looks like?
So you can't do it all in one day. Don't do that. Even though all the videos together only equal about 30 minutes, this is not a 30-minute thing. This is going to take, one video, and the discussion and everything with that is going to take at least 30 minutes, if not 45 minutes to an hour, because you want to build in that time for the discussion. So the videos are just a tool. They're a jumping off point for these great discussions and these great activities that are already included in the curriculum. So I always start off with, especially on the first day, we talk about what it takes to be in a team and what it means, what entrepreneurial spirit is, and kind of those ideas. But I always start off with what happened in our last episode. Okay, what did we talk about last time? And then we do a prediction. What do you think is going to happen? How are they going to attack this problem that's now come up? And then we watch it, and then we use those built-in discussion questions, and it's very authentic. I don't ask the next question until we feel like we've answered and had the discussion for that first one, and we just kind of move through it. And then there's that built-in group project piece, or that built-in assignment, and I give them time to work on that. So there's, you want to make sure that you give a class period for it, for each little video segment. So you can do it, I think I could be wrong, there's like 5 to 7 videos. I haven't played it this year, so it's not fresh on.
That's okay.
But it's 1 class period per video. And then you want to have time for them to do the end STEM activity. That's so fun to do, that hands-on piece, and have time to share what they learned. That's so important, that communication piece, and giving them that opportunity to talk about what they did, what their results were, they could change it, what they would do, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. That's so cool. And one of the neat things that I think ties into this so nicely, and you started to touch on this a little bit, so I wanted to bring this up real quick, is that one of the things that these resources look at so much is it ties in the idea of social entrepreneurship. And so, the idea, this is the same way that, a company who's trying to do good in the world, this is how they would attack a problem. This is how they try to, find a problem and come to a solution. And so you've got steps like articulate the problem, surround yourself with experts, then formulate a solution, incorporate technology to create connections, because all of the examples from the different series in GPS, the series, all use technology in some way. You develop a business plan, raise funding, test and refine, use data to measure impact, and then you spread the word. And like all of those things fit so nicely when you're talking about solving little problems or big problems in your school, in your community, in the entire world. And so I wondered, Kat, was there any of this stuff in these 9 steps of social entrepreneurship that your kids really gravitated towards, or someplace where you really saw big breakthroughs?
That surrounding yourself with experts, because middle schoolers, especially, that they're in that weird age, they think that they have to be able to solve it themselves. They think that asking for help is bad, that if you ask for help, that means that you don't know what's going on and you can't do it. So they tend to shut down. And then there's that whole step in there that says, surround yourself with experts, and trying to tell the kids, it's not necessarily knowing the answer yourself, but it's knowing where to find and who to ask.
Yes.
And so bringing that in and like letting them know that, do you need to do a Google search? Do a Google search. Find the answer. That's what we do as grown-ups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Find the people, find the resources that you need to answer that question. It's okay if you don't know everything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We've got a comment from Dalton. He says, this is awesome. It gives students a way to realize they do have a voice with issues in their community and they can help solve those issues. And actually, Kat, that was one of the things that I wanted to ask you about too, was that, this series is not just about talking about the problem solving process. Mm-hmm. It's not just talking about all this stuff in theory. It actually encourages kids to look at problems in their own community and what they can do about it. And I'm very curious to see, like, what did that look like, in what way, shape, or form with the kids you worked with?
Right. So that's really cool. So that's why I like this series. Remember, I said there's 2 seasons, right? Well, that's mm-hmm. 2 grade levels. That's 4th grade and 5th grade, or 5th and 6th, depending on which group I was working with. Mm-hmm. So the following year, I bring up the character sheet and I said, you remember when we did this last year? And we talk about the team and we talk about what happened. And then we as a class, we start talking about problems that we might have in our local area. Like, is there anything at school that needs to be addressed? Is there anything in our neighborhood that needs to be addressed? And we brainstorm a list. And then we go through that entrepreneur spirit and try to see what we can do to solve it. And what's really cool is sometimes we can actually make change. We actually go through the whole process and we contact stores and we contact all these things and make a real impact in our community. And the kids really buy into it and they get really, really excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so cool that whenever you watch the videos, you see that, and I know we mentioned this earlier, but all of the characters on the videos are using the same problem solving techniques that the kids do. And so, in season 1, they're trying to make sure that wells are working properly in Malawi. And then in season 2, they're trying to get kids back to school, which I think is interesting because in some ways we're trying to get back to school right now too. Only in this series, they're trying to get kids back to school after a hurricane, shuts everything down in Florida. And so you get to watch them go through all of these things. And then the logical next question that, a lot of times come up is, what can we do in our community? What mm-hmm. big problems do we want to solve? Did you guys have any really interesting discussions around that question?
We did, and ours was around our playground.
Oh, interesting.
Because we have a large population of, we call them structured classroom students who they come to school, but they have basically their own instruction, their own teacher for the day. And it's almost one-to-one instruction. Mm-hmm. And some of them their bodies are differently abled. And our playground structure is surrounded by wood chips, and there's a big, log surrounding it, frame, to keep the wood chips in. Well, that means our kids that are in wheelchairs and walkers can't get onto our playground.
Right.
And so we went through this whole process of what can we do? How can we change this? And the kids had great ideas. Now, unfortunately, the funding wasn't there to change our playground base to one of those foam rubber ones that the wheelchair kids can use. But our PTA got involved and we're working towards it now. So when we raise money with the PTA, that's what we're trying to do. And that was because of my class.
Yeah.
We're really trying to work on that.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I think, sometimes you go into work like that with students and it's easy for the students to look at it in the short term and they go, oh man, we were working on this curriculum for 2 or 3 weeks and we weren't able to get our playground changed in 2 to 3 weeks. And you go, yeah, but that's not how this kind of stuff works, And so the fact that you all are starting to make some progress on that, and that it was a problem that the students identified, I put that graphic back up there. Let me put it up one more time. Articulate the problem. I know a lot of times in that articulate the problem thing, you try to look at empathy. What are other people dealing with? What does it feel like for other people? And it seems like that's exactly what your kiddos were doing there was, they were seeing these kids who weren't able to access the playground. So they were showing empathy like that. And I've got to think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've got to think that with some of the skills that you work through in a problem solving curriculum like GPS, the series, it's got to have kind of like a trickle down effect, through the rest of class, through the rest of the school year, and so on and so forth. Is that right?
Yeah, that was one of the things that I really liked, that I started to notice that they weren't just using the problem solving for just like my class. You could see them start to like really use it in other parts of their school day. So they might be more willing to step up and help out. And they were starting to identify and starting to use that empathy, because in middle school, empathy is hard to find sometimes.
Yeah.
So explicitly teaching that empathy piece and how to see the world from someone else's point of view. And they were starting to do it, which is really, really cool that, giving the GPS series, giving them that foundation to be able to use it somewhere else is really cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to circle back to the resources again real quick. Again, remember that, we were talking about how there are 2 series of these videos. And so you have like a set of videos where they're, solving the one problem, the water wells in Malawi. And then they've got a whole second set of videos that, deal with the second problem, which is the hurricane that knocks out school in Florida. And, you said that you worked through that with 4th grade and 5th grade, but I've also seen that it's possible to be able to scale those videos down to younger students. And then it's also possible to scale it up to older students. I know I've read that, it's intended through 8th grade, but if you have the right students in the right situation, like, it could totally work within high school. And if you've got these, 9 steps of social entrepreneurship that you can work students through, I mean, even older kids, I think, could get a lot of benefit out of that. What do you think?
I 100% agree with that. I think with the way that the series is presented and the way the curriculum is written, I've already, and modified it to do it with my 4th and 5th graders. I can see very easily someone in high school looking at this and going, this would be a good intro unit for me to use with my big kids, because they can go even further and understand some of the higher level implications of it. So there's so much you can do with this if you take it as a base and you can build it the way you need to build it. And that's one of the reasons I really like it, is because I can use it as a base, as a foundation, and take it as far as I want.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I wanted to circle back around one more time to the teacher resources. And so I put this up here earlier and just kind of mentioned it in passing. But I mean, if you're watching this and you can picture that you've got these, this series of videos. Let's say you're working with season 1 and you've got this series of videos. And then with each video, you have a teaching companion sheet that just has some questions and some activities. You've got scripts so that you know exactly what each of the videos have said, and storyboards so you can see it. And then the teacher's guide is kind of like the great big thing that has a whole bunch of, the resources all together in one place. And then you've also got student activities and stuff too that you can assign with this. And so I was curious, like, of all of the teaching resources that were out there, which ones were probably the ones that you leaned on the most?
So definitely that teacher's guide, because that's where it's going to have your objectives and all sorts of crossover information is in there. Especially if you're a first-time user, that teacher guide is going to be super, super important. The teaching companions are also really good because it breaks it down by episode, so that if you know that you're doing episode 1, you just pull out teaching, because I've been doing it for a while. So I just pull out episode 1 to get a quick review to remind myself what I'm going to be talking about that day. But if you're a new teacher, definitely that teacher guide. I did not rely on the storyboards and scripts as much, but that was just because with how I was using it, but they're amazing too. It was just not a resource that I was using at the time.
Yeah. That's awesome. For those of you that are watching live, I'd love if you've got any questions, if there's something we haven't touched on yet, definitely drop those into the comments. Would love to get any questions. And also, if your mind is spinning right now about like how you could potentially use this, tell us a little bit about that, like how that could how that could work in your class and everything. And so Kat, forgive me if we've already touched on this a little bit, but this is the part that I've been kind of excited about talking about is the response from the kids. Like, and I know it's hard to get middle school kids excited about stuff sometimes, you know, like certain things it's hard to get them excited about, but like, you know, whenever they got into this problem solving work, and like we said earlier, there was a reaction just from having them identify who they would be in the team and everything. Like, what was sort of the reaction, or what were you reading off of the students as they were going through this?
So at first, like any new project, they were kind of like, project.
Right.
Because they're middle grade kids. But I think once we got into it and they really were drawn to the way the characters were actually animated and drawn. It was like, it wasn't a baby style cartoon. Yeah. It was a much more mature style of drawing. Yeah. They liked that it was multicultural. Like, they're like, oh, I've never seen that color in a cartoon before. And that was really cool. Like, one of my kids said that, like, I've never seen someone from my country up on a cartoon.
Yeah. So
that was really good because they were starting to get engaged with that. And as we were going through it, they really liked it. They're like, are we doing GPS today? Are we going to get to see the next video? Mm-hmm. They were really engaged in it. They enjoyed the story itself, and they liked the work that came with it. Mm-hmm. So they liked it. They really did.
Yeah, no, that's cool. We do have a question from Joshua who says, hey, Kat, I haven't watched the teacher intro yet, but can I ask how students get the activities, or how this worked in your classroom with devices or remotely?
Right. So when I taught it, we were in person. So I just made a quick PowerPoint for myself. And so I had, one slide was episode 1, and I embedded it into the slideshow so that it was just right there ready for me to go. And then I'll have the discussion question posted, and we just talked, right? So it was more organic. In a virtual world, it's going to be a little different. So if you're doing asynchronous, which means you're not together, you're going to have to post that video and make a discussion thread for your kids to have that conversation. Mm-hmm. If you're doing it synchronous over this, you can share your screen through Zoom or Google Meet and watch the video together as class and have that conversation. As far as get the activities, if you read the teacher guide, the activities are, I think for the first season, it was writing a continuation of the story or writing a similar version of the story. So the kids you could pair them up to work on that together in a Google Doc. And they could work on it together, or they could put them in a breakout room and they can talk about how that would work.
Yeah, that's cool. And see, now my brain is going on like all these activities that could go with it. Like, I could even see if you had screenshots from the video, like if you snap screenshots or something, throw that onto a PowerPoint slide and put little speech bubbles next to it or something, or like, you know, describe what they're thinking or what they're saying. And oh my goodness, there's a ton of stuff you could do with this.
That may or may not have already happened.
Oh, really? Nice. That's cool. That's cool. Hey, great minds, right?
It was in I made a Google slide, and they each got a copy of it, and there were 2 characters, and they had a conversation.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I love it.
Which character they identified with, that was the characters on the slide, and they filled in how their character would talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. We had another question that I actually have a screenshot that I can share to answer this one. Are there resources for foreign language class? Believe it or not, let me show you an image real quick. There actually are. You can get all of the videos as well as all of the teaching resources in English, Spanish, French, and Hindi. So if you want to have them listen to the videos in another language, if you want to have the student work in another language, they can do all of that stuff there. And then, of course, you know, if it's a foreign language class, you know, if you want to do all that stuff in that, sorry, I practiced as a high school Spanish teacher for more than 10 years. So I'm kind of geeking out about this question myself. But, you know, if you even want to, like, you know, what you could do is you could make this cultural, and you could go, what are some of the problems that are facing the people of, you know, this particular country where your language is spoken? And then you could, you know, jump into the problem solving process in that way, I think. Kat, do you have anything to add to that?
Most of my students are English speaking, but what was really awesome is I had a couple of kids who I know that speak Spanish at home, and their parents are always interested in what we're doing. And they're like, I showed my parents the video in Spanish, and they watched it and they really liked it. And I'm like, that's great. I'm so happy that you could do that, because it's so hard to sometimes get the information across because it doesn't translate as well, because I only speak English. And when you're relying on a child to relay what's going on in class in another language, it doesn't always work. So it was really nice to have those resources in different languages to share with families.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Let's see. We've got a couple of comments coming in here. This is great. Berta was just saying, I can use this project with my newcomers who are not comfortable with their new language, English. Yeah. I mean, if you've already got that stuff already set for them, that could be fantastic. So, Joshua says, in response to your last question, my 7th grade curriculum is divided into 5 thematic units. And the second unit is on the search for my true north. It's about identity. This could be a super fit. Yeah, that would be, yeah, go ahead, Kat.
I would say it's because of the diversity of the group and what they can bring to solving problems. I think every kid can find one character to identify with. Most of them try to identify with several characters, but there's always one that's like their signature character that they totally get.
Yeah.
I think that could definitely be a fit.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a question from Mardon saying, are you planning to increase the number of problems or scenarios? I assume that means, that means like more seasons, right? Because there's already 2 seasons. So if you haven't used it, then you could certainly go through 1 season in 1 year and 1 in another year like Kat does. I mean, you could even do it like 1 in the fall and 1 in the spring, like in different semesters, couldn't you?
You could, I teach K-8, so I try to make it grow year by year. So it's, I have one specific entrepreneurial unit per year per grade level. But if, let's say you're a STEM teacher or you're in your classroom and you like this series, you can totally do the whole series, both seasons in 1 year, just 1 in spring and 1 in fall. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Very good. All right. So lots of stuff covered here. Go check it out if you haven't already, gpstheseries.com. This is where you can get this free problem solving curriculum with all of the videos, 2 whole seasons that you can use with your students. It's got lots of teacher resources. Get your students working on problems that are important to them in their own community, like all of that good stuff, all of the cool stuff that we want our students to do. And Kat, any last words as we wrap this up?
I just think in this time of virtual learning that this is a great resource for that. So go in there and look at what's in there, because there's a lot of it that you can do even when your students aren't sitting right in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been great. Yeah, Kat, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for watching. Whether you're watching on the replay or if you're live, we certainly appreciate you. If you like videos like this and you want to see more, make sure that you click that subscribe button to the Ditch That Textbook YouTube channel and on Facebook. And we'll catch you on the next video. So thanks again. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.